decision to follow a new set of characters in the sequel to Life is Strange was met with some apprehension from fans. Max and Chloe were beloved by a lot of people, myself included. So I'm happy to report that Life is Strange 2 not only lives up to the standards of the previous game, but improves on them. It's a game that has a point and wants to tell a very specific story. Setting it in a Trump America and making the protagonists two brothers from an immigrant household probably tells you a lot about the ground they cover in the 5 episodes of the season. It also has a great supporting cast, really highlighted by episode 3, probably my favourite episode of the season, where the brothers fall in with a crowd working in an illegal California pot farm. It features one of the tensest moments of the series so far, with so many people you've grown attached to potentially devastated by your actions. The sequel also irons out some of the kinks of the previous season. The game really looks incredible at moments, and the lip syncing is basically flawless now. And there's a distinct lack of the teen speak from the first game that some people really disliked. The word hella still haunts my speech patterns to this day.
Eric said his parents don't leave shit at the cabin, so we better make an official party list.
Hey, whoa, what the hell are you doing?
Don't move. You're my human post-it note.
If Life is Strange becomes an anthology series telling stories about young adults and tying them together with superpowers in the way that it seems to be, sign me the hell up for Season 3. Jenny LeClue was a game I added to my Steam wishlist after seeing a quick trailer for it a number of years ago, and now it's the 4th best thing I played this year. I started playing on a Saturday morning and expecting to just give it a quick try and see what it was all about, and it ended up being my entire day. Jenny LeClue is an adventure game, but it's such a stellar example of the genre that it pains me to be that reductive. Not only is it a gorgeous looking game with a really superb level of detail, it manages to tell a story over 2 layers at once. The way it manages to wind the narrative between Jenny's adventures in the town of Arthurton and the embattled author of the books that those adventures take place in really goes some interesting places, and it's used really effectively in some key moments. For a long time, the gold standard for adventure game dialogue for me has been Night in the Woods, mainly because it managed to capture what real friends talking to each other sound like. Jenny LeClue manages something similar, while also doubling down on the book framing and the structure to give it some theatrics. It also manages to do the whole detective thing really well, with enough observation and deduction minigames that aren't exactly hard, but make you think just enough to give you the feeling that you're doing the work. Adventure games are not what they used to be, and the Telltale Don't Nod reworks of the genre only really get half of the way there. While I know there are a lot of other games out there trying to harken back, Jenny LeClue is smart, it's lovingly detailed, and is so well put together that it manages to feel like an evolution rather than a revolution, and that makes me very, very happy. It initially seemed kind of wild to me that the next game from Zachtronics, the developers of logic and programming games like Exapunks and Shenzhen.io, would be a visual novel, let alone a visual novel that ended up on my top 5 list of 2019. But when you look at it, it should actually be no surprise that a game about someone in their early 30s working in the tech sector would be something that I personally would connect with. But Eliza's much more than that. It's the distillation of the thoughts and feelings of my peers and my Twitter feed. It's the slow realization of what your chosen field can do to people's lives under the guise of helping. Of course we're going to collect that data, but we're using it to improve the system. Selling it is just a side thing that you agreed to when you started using the product. It's about crunch and burnout, it's about the disillusionment with the world we've been left. It's all here, and it's all wrapped around great characters and some really superb voice acting. Tell a story that, to be honest, got a little too real at points.
Nothing. I'm just some extra person who just showed up. Nobody wanted me to be here. I don't belong with these people. I haven't earned it. So I cried in the bathroom for a little bit, or maybe a lot. It's fine. I'm fine.
And then it goes that extra mile and directs all our fears and apprehensions about data collection into mental health treatment and what a company could do with the things that you tell your therapist. Putting the player front and centre as the human face for an AI-powered counselling product is chilling, and as the story progresses, things only really get worse. Zachtronics have proved they have range, and now I'm even more excited than I normally would be for what they do next. Outer Wilds is a game that feels like they took every things not to do in a video game recommendation and set fire to it while just cackling to itself. Even just the way this game is put together is enough for it to be this high on my list, but it manages to combine it with some fantastic use of music, some world design that's totally unique, and creates an entirely new way of consuming a narrative that's both immensely satisfying and feels totally appropriate when combined with every other part of the game. It's also a game that demands you play it on its terms. From the moment you launch from your home planet, there are no objective markers, no quest log, nothing. You're told about 4 other explorers that set out before you and are given a high-tech radio mic to track down the sound of them playing instruments. And that's it. From then on, it's down to you to explore the planets, poke and prod at alien machinery, and eventually put together the story of the Nomai race that were here well before you and find out why you're stuck in this 22-minute loop that ends with the sun exploding. Looking at a game like Disco Elysium, which I assume will be very near the top of Callum's list, it's very easy to see how parts of that game will be just straight up stolen by its genre peers in the future. I really doubt the same can be said for Outer Wilds. It's such a unique assembly of systems, narrative design, and just sheer ambition that I don't think its ideas are going to be able to be cannibalized individually. It's going to be a game that really stands the test of time and will be talked about for years to come. Remedy games are unique things, not really in terms of genre or mechanics, but more in tone and feel. Alan Wake was the one and only Xbox 360 game I was disappointed I wasn't going to be able to play as a PlayStation and PC owner. Control is confirmation that you don't need the expansive landscapes of a Skyrim or a Witcher to create a robust and intricate world. The Oldest House is one of the most coherent spaces in a video game I've played in a long time. It manages to perfectly walk the line between the otherworldliness of the hiss seeping in and the day-to-day office melodrama of exactly who stole whose mug, and it really feels like it shouldn't work, but it's the source of what makes the world of Control so great. It cannot be understated how much I love how this game looks. It's the thing that initially drew me to Control, and it looked like nothing else I'd ever seen. Not only does it manage to make brutalist office buildings seem even more uneasy than most buildings of that type do, it manages to warp and flex it to make every frame of that game a work of art. It also plays better than any Remedy game has in the past, with the combination of solid gunplay and powers that feel really good every time you use them. Yanking a massive chunk of concrete out of the ground and hurling it at the nearest guard's face is never not fun, and it generates such an obscene amount of dust and debris that the end of a combat counter just leaves this incredible wake of devastation behind you. Remedy has set up an incredible world and has already promised more content in it, and I cannot wait to see it. To be honest, I'll take as much story from the Bureau of Control as they will give me.
The hotline. I think I'm under attack. An attack of dementia, exhaustion. It's a brain cloud making me forget. The hotline. I must reach the hotline.